On Friday nights, the lobby filled up. Not with tenants, at least, not at first, but with their children. Teenagers mostly. The kind who smoked in stairwells, who laughed too loudly at nothing, who pretended not to be afraid of anything at all. They came for him, the doorman. No one knew when he'd started working there. The building itself, Ashford House, was old enough to make that question feel irrelevant. Its marble floors were cracked in veins, its brass fixtures worn to a dull yellow, its elevator slow enough to make people consider the stairs. And at the front desk, always, was Mr. Vale. That was the name he gave, at least. He was tall in a way that didn't quite seem natural anymore, as if time had stretched him thin instead of shrinking him down. His uniform was always immaculate, dark green, gold buttons polished, cap resting just so atop his wispy white hair. His smile was kind, too kind. "Evening," he'd say, every time, as though he hadn't already seen you that morning, as though he hadn't seen anyone every day for however long he'd been there. The adults trusted him. The children didn't. "You ever notice," Carla said one night, flicking ash into an empty soda can, "the little kids won't even walk past him?" "Kids are weird," Matthew replied. "They think shadows are monsters." Carla shook her head, glancing toward the front desk. Mr. Vale was watching them. Not staring, no. That would have been too obvious. Just aware. His eyes seemed to land on each of them in turn, soft and patient, like he was waiting for something. "They don't think he's a monster," Carla said quietly. "They think he's something worse." Matthew smirked. "Like what?" Before Carla could answer, Mr. Vale stood. "Ah," he said, his voice carrying easily across the lobby. "You've come back. Good. I was wondering if you would." A few of the teens exchanged looks. Some snickered, but they all drifted closer anyway, pulled by something they wouldn't admit. "Got another story for us, Mr. Vale?" Matthew asked. The old man's smile deepened. "Always." They gathered around the desk like it was a campfire. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, the building settled into its usual nighttime silence, the kind that pressed in on your ears if you noticed it too much. Mr. Vale rested his hands on the polished wood. "Tell me," he began, "have any of you been to the sub-basement?" A few shook their heads. "Didn't think so," he murmured. "It's not listed on the directory. Hasn't been for, decades now." "Why?" Carla asked. Mr. Vale tilted his head. "Because," he said gently, "people kept going missing." A ripple of laughter moved through the group, nervous but present. "Yeah, okay," Matthew said. "Like who?" "Tenants," Mr. Vale replied. "Visitors. A delivery boy, once. He was, 17, 18? Around your age?" The laughter died. "No bodies were ever found," the doorman continued. "But sometimes, late at night, the elevator would stop on a floor that doesn't exist anymore." He paused. "And when the doors opened, someone would be standing inside. Not anyone you recognized, just someone." A silence settled over the group. "You're messing with us," Carla said, though her voice lacked conviction. Mr. Vale smiled again, softer this time. "Of course I am," he said. "Stories are meant to unsettle. Otherwise, what's the point?" The tension broke. A few of them laughed again, louder this time, eager to shake off the feeling. "All right," Matthew said. "Give us a real one then. Something that actually happened." Mr. Vale's eyes flickered. "Oh," he said. "They all happened." He told them about a woman who heard footsteps following her up the stairs, always one step behind, never catching up. About a man who swore his reflection lagged half a second behind his movements. About an apartment on the 12th floor that tenants moved out of within a week, always citing noise, but never explaining further. Each story was delivered the same way, calm, precise, almost affectionate, like he remembered them, like he'd been there. By the time he finished, it was well past midnight. The group had thinned. A few had left, muttering excuses. The rest lingered, unwilling to admit they were rattled. Carla crossed her arms. "You tell these stories like you saw them," she said. Mr. Vale met her gaze. "I did," he replied. "How old are you exactly?" Matthew asked, half joking. The doorman considered the question. "Old enough," he said, "to remember when this building had more doors." "More doors?" Carla echoed. He nodded toward the far end of the lobby. "There used to be a hallway there," he said, "before they sealed it up, after the incident." "What incident?" Mr. Vale's smile returned, but it had changed somehow. Subtly, but unmistakably. "Would you like to see?" he asked. They shouldn't have said yes. Carla would think about that later, the way it feels less like a decision and more like a step already taken. Mr. Vale led them down the hall, past the mailboxes, past the flickering light that no one ever fixed. At the end of the corridor, there was a wall, plain, unremarkable, except not quite. "You see it?" Mr. Vale asked. At first they didn't. Then Matthew stepped closer. "There's a line," he said. "Like an outline." A door, sealed shut, painted over, forgotten. Mr. Vale reached into his pocket and withdrew a small brass key. "Management prefers this remain closed," he said. "But management doesn't remember what I remember." Carla felt her stomach tighten. "Maybe we shouldn't." The key slid into a keyhole that hadn't been there a moment ago. A soft click echoed down the hall, and the door opened. The air beyond was wrong, not just stale, wrong, thick, heavy, like breathing in something that wasn't meant for lungs. The hallway stretched out farther than it should have. The lights dim and yellowed, the walls lined with doors. So many doors. "Whoa," Matthew whispered. "This wasn't here before." "No," Mr. Vale said. "It was." He stepped inside. After a moment's hesitation, they followed. The door shut behind them with a quiet, final sound. "Each door," Mr. Vale said, "has a story." He gestured to the nearest one. Behind this, footsteps on the stairs. The man who never quite made it home. Another door. The reflection that learned to move on its own. Another. The woman who kept hearing breathing from inside her walls. Carla's chest tightened. "These aren't stories," she said. "These are memories," Mr. Vale finished. He turned to them, and for the first time, his smile disappeared. "They all are." The hallway seemed to stretch, the doors multiplying the longer they looked. "How many people?" Matthew began. "All of them," Mr. Vale said softly. "Everyone who's ever lived here, everyone who's ever visited, everyone who's ever stepped through those front doors." He paused. "Eventually ends up here." Carla's pulse pounded in her ears. "That doesn't make any sense," she said. "We're alive, we're—" Mr. Vale's eyes softened. "Yes," he said. "For now." A low sound echoed down the hall. A door creaked open somewhere far behind them. Then another, and another. From inside, something shifted. Not footsteps, something slower, waiting. "Time to go," Matthew said, backing toward the door they'd come through. He reached for the handle. It wasn't there. Where's the... The wall was smooth, seamless, unbroken. No, Carla whispered. No, 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 no. Mr. Vale watched them with quiet patience. You shouldn't panic, he said. It makes the transition unpleasant. Transition? Matthew snapped. What are you talking about? The doorman adjusted his gloves. My job, he said, is to greet tenants. He glanced down the endless hallway of doors, and eventually to place them where they belong. Carla shook her head. We don't belong here. Mr. Vale's gaze lingered on her. Then, gently, You've been coming down to the lobby every weekend for months, he said, listening, learning, letting the building notice you. A door near them clicked. The handle turned. People think I tell stories, Mr. Vale continued. The door creaked open. Darkness pooled inside. But stories, he said softly, are just doors. Something inside the room shifted. Once you know them, he went on, they know you. Carla felt something brush her ankle. She screamed. The last thing the night concierge saw hours later was the front door of Ashford House standing slightly ajar. No sign of the teenagers. Just Mr. Vale at his post, as always. Calm, immaculate, waiting. Quiet night? The concierge asked. Mr. Vale smiled. For now, he said. Behind him, unnoticed, the directory board flickered. For just a second, a new line appeared at the bottom. Sub-basement. Occupied. Then it vanished. And the doorman went back to watching the door.